I am thrilled at today's guest, the iconic Kelsey Grammer, the great Kelsey Grammer. I've been a huge fan for years. He is an Emmy-winning actor, producer, and director. He's only won 6 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globes, a SAG Award, and 18 Emmy nominations. Of course, he's best known for Frasier Crane, and his work speaks for itself. We're here to talk about his new book, Karen, A Brother Remembers. It's also out in audio, where Kelsey does the voice. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Donnie. Good to see you.
Good to see you. The book is a gut-wrenching book about focuses around your sister, Karen, who was brutally murdered at 18. You were 20 years old, and the inspiration for the book was you worked with a medium and you connected, and felt like it was time to tell the story.
Yeah, what happened with this gal named Esther? Some of the circles in which I travel are very connected to that world, and I produced a show called Medium years ago, so it's been something I've been dabbling with for a long time. They introduced me to Esther. We booked a session together. She got on the phone and said, "Just relax a little bit." I heard a couple of rattles and a couple of sticks shaking, and she's got a sort of a deep, sort of thick accent, and we started, and then she said, just stopped and said, "Oh, your sister wants you to tell her story." So I thought, and I'd never heard that before. I've had a lot of sort of traffic with this group of people, and that was the first time that had ever come across. And I thought to myself, well, how would I go about doing that? And a month or so after I had the phone call with her, I started to just jot down some notes, and about 8 pages in, I realized I was writing a book. I thought, this is actually a book about my sister and about our life together and about what happened in my life since the time she was taken. And I'm happy to say I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. Let's go right back to it. You were 20 in Juilliard. She was 18. First of all, tell me about your sister.
Yeah, Karen was a remarkable kid. She was a very smart kid. She'd sort of spun her wheels a bit at the same school we went to. We went to school together for a while, and then her junior and senior year, she said, "I want to go to a different school. I want to be part of something else." My mom explained to me. She said, "Well, I think Karen wanted to get away from your shadow." Some other people said that Karen got in trouble one night and she needed to leave the school. I never heard that, so I don't know anything about that. But she was a remarkably smart person, book read, really intelligent. So she went off to this school, and they actually put her into the senior year right away. She was just that much advanced, and she made some good friends there. We actually ended up being mutual friends with a few of her pals from that school as well, which was called Palm Cove at the time. It's no longer open, but she ended up went to college at the age of 17, and that she didn't find that really that interesting, and then she fell in love with somebody, and they went to Colorado Springs together, which was the following year, and of course that was the year she died. I was able to, through the book, I was able to actually track down this young man. John's his name. We became great friends since, and I feel closer to Karen as a result of knowing John. Actually, I called him the first time he agreed to actually have me speak with him, and he said, "It's nice to talk with you. We've traveled in some circles." He's actually a casting director in California, and we were so close. But I finally said, "I just wanted to know why she went to Colorado Springs," and he started to cry, and he said, "She went because of me." It's really something.
Yeah. Take us to that night in Colorado Springs. She's working at a Red Lobster, and tell the story, please.
Right. Karen had gone to sit outside the Red Lobster that night. She wasn't actually on duty. She'd worked her shift earlier. Uh, she had several friends in the kitchen. John was away that weekend. He went down to Arizona to open up another Red Lobster, actually. But it took me a long time to try to figure out what she was doing there, and I really think she just went to have some company, to meet a buddy for a drink, and do what she always did, was to hang out and enjoy people. These 3 fellas pulled up and saw her sitting by the dumpster out back, and 2 of them went and took her and said, "Get in the car with our friend." And they got in the car with this fellow named Freddie Glenn, and they went in to rob the store. For some reason, they decided not to. They came back out, and then the 3 of them went off and took Karen and raped her and then killed her.
And take me through the you had to go identify the body. You said that this is something that has just haunted you your entire life, and I can't even fathom what that must have been like.
Thanks, Sonny. It was, I mean, of course, I discussed it in the book. It was kind of, it was just surreal because, there was my sister in front of me. And of course, I recognized her, but she didn't really look the same. What was odd was a lot of people who had known her in Colorado Springs had been asked to identify the body, and some of them thought it wasn't even Karen because she looked visibly changed. I don't know if it was the fact that there were sort of, sort of like an aura around her of suffering. I don't, because her features did look different, like they'd been tortured. And of course, the morticians probably did some putty and stuff like that to kind of reshape some things. She was pretty cut up. And so she did not really resemble the girl I'd known. But there was a weird comfort in that too, because you could tell that the life that was in her wasn't there anymore, and it's gone somewhere else, certainly. So that was a difficult time, but it was also eerily kind of comforting in a strange way that, to know that whatever was Karen wasn't there anymore. And whether or not it was missing or gone completely, I don't know. But, of course, I've just subsequently discovered that she is still with me in a lot of ways, in many ways.
Yeah, you talk about the kind of that timelines and memories have nothing to do with years, and that in certain ways she's more vivid with you today than ever.
Yeah, there was a great comfort in it. Uh, Once I sort of opened the door to this passage, right, to this pathway through language and writing, and putting my mind on a piece of paper, or at least in a computer, uh, time just kind of just disappeared completely. Things that I'd forgotten I knew at all were suddenly as fresh and vivid as the moment I was living them. And I still felt like I was stepping into the world that I was when for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Um, these memories came flooding back in a way that was absolutely present. There was no time whatsoever in between when they occurred and when I was writing about them, and that's 50 years ago. I mean, some of them are almost
It's
70 years
crazy.
ago. It was
It's
an
crazy.
extraordinary experience, and that was part of what comforted me. Part of what became the exercise of the book was to try to find some comfort, try to place the grief, which is constant, at sort of in direct opposition to the joy that Karen was for me. This person that was so close to me, and such a joyful relationship, was suddenly more powerful than the grief, and that's what I hope to impart to other people too, who've been this through down this same road, who've lost people in the same way, and we've all lost people. This kind of added element of tragedy, of violence and stuff like that, makes it perhaps a bit more savage and harder to understand. But that joy still exists in all of us.
You talk a lot about your faith and how that got you through it. How do you, after losing your sister to such a brutal murder, you lost your dad was murdered, two stepbrothers in a scuba accident. How do you still go, oh my God, I still believe in a greater being. I still believe in good. I have faith. How do you do that after going through so much of that where you just common sense says you should throw up your hands and say, I don't believe in shit anymore.
Right.
I can't give it up that way anymore.
There was certainly a time when I did that, when I abandoned all that, but it was short lived. What's interesting is it's not that I went looking for it; it came and found me. It's
What does that mean? What does that mean?
but it means that faith just keeps knocking. It just keeps knocking on the door. It keeps showing up. I was in shock at certain times that right in the middle of a sort of a reverie that was filled with grief, I would get a joyful moment, a voice, a quiet reassurance, a touch, a thing that sort of, a string that was played that resonated joy and faith in me. And so it's like, I don't know, the story of Barabbas, give us Barabbas, that he went
No.
on, he became on to become a Christian because he was the one whose life was spared, and Jesus was taken instead. And Barabbas then spent the next several years of his life being haunted by this image of Jesus. And finally, somebody said to him, "Well, he's with you because he is what he is. He's this spirit." And so I think that's what has helped me. All the times that I didn't think he was there, he was. And finally, I could hear it.
The two killers, one is since passed in jail, and the other one, Mr. Glenn, that you referenced, who was the main perpetrator. You've said that you've forgiven. You don't want him getting. He's in jail. He originally was a death sentence, and then they changed the laws in Colorado, and he's in a life sentence now. But obviously, with parole, anything can happen. But you say you forgive at this point. How do you get there with that?
It's
How
very
do you
hard.
forgive?
That's not an easy thing. That was, but it feels to me, because we are all brothers, that forgiveness is something we're given and that I owe, because I've been forgiven for a lot of things I did. Um, it's very hard. I cannot conscious the idea that he would actually ever be free. I can't condone it, recommend it, um, embrace it, because this guy's still capable of violence. He's still a strong man. He's still a large fella. I mean, he's got he's very capable, and of course, he's spent his lifetime pretending he didn't do anything. Had there been some moment when he said, "I get it. I am devastated by this, what I did." But in his latest parole hearing, he actually just explained that he didn't even remember raping Karen, and that he didn't really do anything. It's like he's been in jail long enough. These are the hallmarks of somebody who's that's not contrition. That's just
No,
that's just
it's a
looking for a way out.
sociopath. That's a
Yeah.
sociopath.
So yeah, exactly.
So this happens. You're a very young man. You're studying at Juilliard. You go on to obviously have a prolific career. How did this shape you as an artist? You talk about that in the book.
Yeah. What I found was I don't go around trying to make every situation that I'm playing in, every fantasy basically that's written by an author, to try to, and I try to fill it with what I know about life. I don't go around trying to insist that, oh, my pain be the same pain I felt with Karen. But what does happen when you surrender yourself to a role, when you actually invest in the role enough to play it and play it well, sometimes all the life you've lived comes along for the ride. And that's what I've experienced, that sometimes the grief that I hold and still hold within me deeply is given a vent through a character I'm playing. And so I think, so in some ways, that's what makes a performance seem authentic, because there is an authentic emotion behind it. But I don't go around trying to work it up or get to it or find it somehow. It just comes along for the ride. And that's what I think the value is of being an actor, is you study life. It's human experience, and what you know of experience is what gives you credibility as an actor. It is what makes you authentic. So
There was certain episodes, an episode about grief in Frasier that must have been particularly uh, painful for you to go through those episodes.
yeah, yeah, those have been there. But you know what? You just as an actor, well, my feeling about it is, as an artist, you stand outside the experience. You do. You watch the experience, and you categorize it. You log it, and you call on it when it seems appropriate.
You really gut wrenching part of the book towards the end when you go back to Colorado Springs and you visit the Red Lobster where she was abducted, in the trailer park where she was killed brutally. Uh, Talk to me about that, the courage it took to do that, and the feelings.
Right. I spent my whole life wishing I'd been there. Spent my
You
whole
feel
life.
somewhat not responsible, but that you should have been able to
Yeah,
protect her,
you
which
do.
is obviously not rational, but it's a real feeling.
It's real. Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah,
everybody who's lost a loved one that way feels like they should have done something about it, even
yeah.
though they always know they can't. So I spent my whole life wishing I'd been there. And then what was kind of extraordinary in finally going there was I had the chance to do what I'd never had the chance to do, which was to say goodbye, was to kiss her goodbye, and to hold her in that moment and be the brother I always wanted to be, which was at least to protect her soul. I couldn't stop her from being killed, but I could send her off with love, have the last thing she saw be my eyes, be my uh, heart, and to tell her that she was loved. And so that was important to me, more important than I even knew. I wanted to witness her death, to witness her passing, but in my subconscious self, I realized I needed to be able to say bon voyage, to bless her, to kiss her, to say goodbye to the most wonderful girl I ever knew.
How do you answer the why? You're obviously through your faith. Why does something like this happen? And as I said, I can't empathize because I haven't gone through something like. I can empathize. I can't imagine. But how do you get to that why when such a magnificent young woman? When I read a book once by a rabbi, when bad things happen to good people. But where do you put? How do you answer the why?
Yeah, I'm not sure there is an answer. That's what's fascinating about it. The why of things, the human experience here is filled with unspeakable cruelty. I mean, unspeakable things happen. People do this to each other. We do it all the time. Uh, the only thing you can turn to is a sense of faith, like where there is comfort. I mean, an old friend of mine who was a priest, said he said it's almost as if God's saying, "I'm not out to get you. I'm just here to help." Uh, Things happen that are horrible. I'm trying to find there was another sense of what. There is no way of making sense of it. It's just someone once described it, for instance, the Holocaust. Said,
Yeah.
how could God, and people say, God, how
How
could
can there
God,
be a God? How can it let 6 million Jews
how
be
could you let
slaughtered? How
that
can there be? Yeah.
happen? And then I heard someone once respond saying, so what you're saying is that's a reason to believe in man or man's abilities?
Yeah.
And so I get it. I mean, it's like God's not the author of that stuff. Man is. And, yeah, man is God's child, but there is this on this plane, there is warfare and violence and good and evil, and there is free will. And some people choose the stuff that we don't want to go to.
Before I let you go, you talk about your working on Frasier and Friends. They were truly a family, the folks that you work with. And
Yeah.
one of those family members passed this week, the great George Wendt. Talk to me a little bit about George.
George. George did like beer, which was always funny. I said to him once, we were sitting talking somewhere about how he'd gone to Germany and he was checking out some beer somewhere, and I said, "So you really like beer?" And he said, "Yeah, I really do." So it's just my dream job, which I don't know if it gave birth to the episode where he actually was a taste tester at one of the big breweries. That was one of my favorite episodes where he hugs a fermenter. It's like uh, wonderful stuff. You don't spend, a lot of life after the time you work together. I mean, I didn't see a ton of George, but I'd see him, and it was always like, like a hail fellow, well met moment. And we would always laugh, and we went out and did some things together. I remember telling some joke in Chicago about something, some beer shot out of his nose. It's like we just we'd always laugh together, and that's what I like to remember.
On that note, I'm going to let you go. The book, it's compelling, gut-wrenching, incredibly human book, and it took a lot of courage to write this book. The book is Karen, A Brother Remembers, by the great Kelsey Grammer. Thank you so much for your time and being so open about things.
Thanks, Donnie. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.